for the second time so far today. Because the first live stream, it defaults to unlisted, which means unless you have a link, nobody can see the live stream exists. So evidently that's kind of useless. So hopefully we get some people turning up this time. It was only a couple of minutes. I was just starting with the H2D. As you can see, the top is open. So yeah, we're just going to start with harvesting the printers from yesterday. There's some things which you won't have seen before. So hopefully that'll be interesting. Good. At least one person has turned up this time. So it's worth it. Oh, it's Lars. Good morning. Again. I think it's going to be a while before this becomes like a thing. So probably going to end up quite quiet for quite a few live streams, but it gets me moving in the morning, and that's kind of half the point sometimes, right? I'm using my PCBWay cup, but it's not sponsored by PCBWay, although I have actually sponsored other things in the past. It is a very delicious coffee. So yeah, first things first this morning is the H2D, and has been printing now the same thing for quite a while. Not sure the camera's all wonky. Noon there already. Yeah, I mean it is 10:47. My mornings are quite late getting started generally. It's been an exhausting week. So especially Fridays can be a bit of a slower start. Yes, more VLMP2 bases. One base. Looks all very nice. You can see as well if the glue stick we applied yesterday is going to help with the removal. Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. That's easy. You do have to be quite careful with the purge thing at the back, not to push it off the back. I think at one point I got one stuck in there. Well, I know I got one stuck in there, and I think it's still in there. There's something somewhere where it can like snug in, just because it was not very thick, and it's just sort of gone somewhere. Don't know where. It's ABS, so it should be fine. Good. Just watch out for that. Don't think anything is looking particularly problematic, so we'll just go ahead and continue. Very little poop. There's like barely any purge poop when you use this machine. Because it has dual nozzles, so good for doing multicolor. Well, 2 color at least. As soon as you get up to 3-4, you do have to purge between the ones where you don't have like its own nozzle. A 4-week vacation. That sounds nice. Although I struggle to not work, so for me it would be a truly awful experience. I struggle to not be busy with things, even if I'm on holiday. I'm like, I just want to do stuff. Yeah, the jackal. I struggle with names. Yeah, I've started doing this live thing in the mornings because I'm printing more things and I want to show people that I'm actually doing stuff. A lot of the time you don't hear anything from me for like weeks or months at a time just because I'm working on things, but it's not like enough to make a video on, or it's not a product that's ready to release. So I keep stuff all behind the scenes and hidden until it's ready to go. But I thought it might be interesting to do some live stream stuff, just casual things in the morning as I get things kind of started, so you can see where I'm at. Oh yes, the other thing I was going to do is pop a new black in here. I do try to keep 2 black ABS in every printer because most of what I print, especially if it's prototypes, is in black ABS. partly because it's one of the cheapest colours to get, partly because it's very practical, and partly because it looks good. And by having 2 in every AMS, I can always rely on the filament continuation to make sure that I don't ever run out of filament in the middle of the print, which means I don't get that annoying weird anxiety about not having enough filament. A bit like range anxiety in an electric car, I suppose. So you just bang up the net spool on the function ABS. Sometimes these little plastic tags can be a little bit annoying, but it's a small price to pay for basically never wasting the end of the spool. Like this one is from the Prusa Core 1, but I have no filament continuation. I don't know exactly how much is left, maybe like 100 grams or something, but I don't have any prints that are like going to fit in that, or it's not long enough a print to bother with, so it just becomes a bit annoying. I need a multi-material filament continuation thing for my Prusa, because I have another Prusa Core 1 to build as well. They sent me a kit. So I need to do that at some point as well. So there we go. That's black ABS now ready to go straight back in here. I don't know if I'm standing in the way. These morning ones aren't intended to necessarily be educational. It's just so you have some idea of what the hell I'm doing. The other nice thing about prototype with ABS is that one print that was to test can possibly be the actual part used. Yeah, I mean, if I know, maybe sometimes yes. I will generally print different thicknesses and walls and perimeters and infills and stuff for stuff that I know is prototype versus what I think is production. And since my production is generally, or at least sometimes, for sale, I want to make sure that there's consistency between all the parts that are being sold. So I don't want to have like some which are weaker infill, because then if somebody reports something that's failed, I'm like, oh shit, is the perimeters and infill that I selected actually not enough, even though I normally print them like pretty strong. Because if I printed one that was like the first one in only one wall or something, because it was meant to be a prototype, and then sold it, like, that would just be dumb. So yeah, I don't do any of that. They're all nice and thick, always. Good, that's in. You can see that's now selected that. I also like how hands off this printer is. The fact you just put it in, it's like, and I can work this out for you. That's the print that I started this morning, that's already done. I'll show you that in a second. So yeah, we can just print another one of what we had yesterday. The yellow barely uses any each time. It's 118 grams per base, 4.5 hours. ABS yellow, ABS black, print. Yeah, that'll start chucking out a load of heat and make my nice warm room even warmer already. As I mentioned, actually no, in my first live stream I mentioned, which was not public, so nobody knew about it. It is currently 27.8 degrees. I have no windows. I mean, this is obviously a glass, but it doesn't open. I have one door, but it doesn't allow any ventilation in, and the roof gets very, very hot. The roof gets to like 35 even at this time. So it's warm in here, it's stuffy, and it's very humid. So I do struggle a bit, and adding heat to my printers does not help the situation. But we're getting some ventilation and stuff added, so by that time it should be alright. I'm generally not able to stay here all day though at the moment. By the afternoon it's like 31 or 32 degrees in here. It's basically unlivable. I'm just like sitting there sweating, my head just like, my brain just ceases to function at that point. Let me get this in the bin and we'll work on the next piece. 65 to 70, that's high. And 32. Yeah, I would not survive in that. I would probably, you know, cease. 23 indoors is not too bad. 23, I mean, 25, 26 of stuff indoors is okay when you get it like a breeze that kind of circulates the air. I have no air circulation. It's just like being in a greenhouse, you know, it just feels that kind of stuffiness. What's in these? Yes, so more black ABS. So these two parts are prototype pieces for the next VLMP Pro. I'm just testing out a couple of ideas at the moment. I say VLMP Pro, but I kind of want to merge the whole thing into just one thing with lots of options. So it's VLMP 3 or whatever. There is no like separate Pro, but you can order it with linear rails and the metal base or something if you want to. So this test was just about having a handle. I forgot to put tolerances for the width of the handle, so it won't work perfectly. So this is going to be like the new support for the grip for the thing, and then this attaches to the carriage, and it's just a handle that goes on the front. I just want to see what it's like. Is the front the right place? Should it be on the side? Does the side cause twisting? And all these kinds of things. So just testing various designs. I mean, this is not final design, this is just a shape that happens to be in about the right place where a handle could go. So very prototype, testy, sort of seeing what fundamentally could work. Some nice spam comments I think here as well. 31 and 65, that's pretty nasty. Make one with foot pedal trigger so both hands can be used. Aha, let me show you something else. It's not really part of what I intended to say, but there we go. I don't know how far you can hear me away from. Obviously, I'm just using my phone here, so microphone-wise, there's nothing, there's no lab or anything. Let me know if the audio is complete garbage. Many of you will have missed this because it was only on show at Smurf last year, so this probably doesn't exist in whatever you've seen me do, but Taylor, Nero 3D Canuck creator, however you know them, yeah, they did a video on it, so maybe go check out from that. So next we have again a bunch more ABS black. Again, a bunch more parts for VLMP2. These are some of the covers. So for VLMP2 we added a bunch of kind of cosmetic parts to cover up like the screws and V-slot wheels and things. I think it adds a lot to the overall aesthetic of the machine, but it does make for quite a lot more printed parts. As you can see down here, this is like all the printed parts needed. It's not quite this volume, this is multiple sets. But yes, it takes quite a few printed parts to make a single VLMP2. Luckily, stuff comes off these beds really nicely. I normally, up until fairly recently, didn't use the textured plates because I prefer the smoothness or kind of satin texture of the engineering plates. I think the overall roughness of the engineering plate is more similar to like the other sides of a 3D print, so it's less kind of jarring visually and it's less obvious which side it was printed and that kind of thing. So engineering plate would still be my favorite, but they don't make them anymore. I have some extras and some spares, but I don't know, I just decided to switch to this because I don't have engineering plate for H2D because they didn't make one, they didn't exist, and I wanted to make sure the parts that I'm printing for VLMP2 have the same texture regardless of which printer they were printed on. So PEI I have for both machines, so same across the board. Did you check out Chris Borges' tool on heat set inserts? I've not heard of that. I can maybe look, but I'll probably forget by the time I finish this live stream. There are hundreds of designs now. Arguably, mine was originally the most popular, which I'm quite proud of. I mean, there were existing designs before that, but I made a video and I think it did a lot of views, and then lots of people started copying or making their own versions. I'm trying to still be in that market, but it's becoming more challenging with the number of like open source designs and everyone wanting to have their own version, which is wild considering after like the first one I did, a lot of people were like, oh, I just don't need this. I don't want this. Why are you doing this? And then suddenly they're everywhere. There's even people like doing fully injection molded parts for them. So they're obviously doing some volume, and I'm just like, wild. Even so, we are still doing them. We're going to be doing new versions with some extra cool features, better support for larger formats, deeper reach, and all those sorts of things. Yes, going to be investing quite a bit in design development of some new ideas, because a lot of what people are doing at the moment is all just copy and paste of what I originally did, but with extra steps. So yes. So the next thing we have is on core 1, which is down on the floor. The only reason it's down here is because these needed the height. This desk from Big Doug, I don't like it. I should have just done my own extrusion design, which I did before, but I tried to do something quick because I was just moving in and needed something. But I can't really adjust the height any higher than this. This is the maximum, and that doesn't fit with the core 1 AMS. That has to go on top, which is enough. But this doesn't need the height, so you can go down here. So down here, what we have, it's two of exactly the same thing. So I mentioned yesterday about doing Electropie kits. So I did a bunch of those. I'll show you in a minute. But that device mounts to a Pi, and this is like a little adapter thing that helps you get that in the right place. Quick demo. I don't know if it's going to work because, again, this is prototype, which is why I normally don't show it. It could just not fit. That's entirely possible. So that would go, basically locates on the Pi. There's not like physical location because you'd have screws, etc. But that does fit on there. That matches up rather to the 3 of the holes. You don't need the 4th really, especially when you see you're going to have a full 40-pin GPIO sitting there. So that would attach onto here. This is actually an older design, but it needs to fit both. And that actually fits really perfectly snugly without any screws. So that kind of sits in there like that. And it just means that as you screw it down, you're not going to like excessively bend anything. This is plenty supported by this whole GPIO anyway, so I didn't feel like you needed extra here. And then of course you've got this one hopefully around this side. So yes, nice little compact unit. Having this side open also allows escape for the airflow, because we have this fan on top for cooling Pi, particularly 4 and 5. So there's flow out between the kind of connectors here, down these channels, as well as all the way out this end. You'd have a little bit at the sides, but yes, this is this. The design has turned out remarkably well. I'm getting a little bit better at getting stuff right first time, though I'm always an advocate of, if you did it right first time, did you do enough? Or did you make it too easy? I'll try and check out Chris Borges. If someone can leave me a thing on the Discord or something, that would be really appreciated, because then I can find that. Do you use anti-static filament? No, I don't, to be honest. I'm not entirely sure why it exists. Like, I know the concept of anti-static, but I've never experienced any kind of static build-up with printed parts that would require it, unless you have like extremely sensitive parts and extremely high chance of static buildup. I'm not sure why you'd need it. Like, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It exists, and I'm sure there are people that use it and need it. But for general 3D printing electronics, I don't think we're really in that market. The last thing I printed this morning is just on the Creity High. Creity High is a weird name. I don't get it, but it's their bed slinger thing with a tool changer. Tool changer? AMS, multi-material, or CFS, whatever they call it. I don't actually use their multi-material system for that because I barely ever print PLA, so that printer's just sort of sitting there. I asked them to send it to help me with the Calo Lantern Mark II because I added support for Creality OS, so I needed something that actually ran Creality OS like as fully stock from them. I looked at getting them online, but like I don't know what people have fiddled with or changed, so I was like, I need an OG Creality printer just for this purpose. So they sent me one, and that's all sorted, so pretty happy with that. But I don't really print much PLA. Like 90% of what I use is ABS. And all I printed this morning is just some white cubes. Yeah, because I print white cubes. So there's a game called the sock game. You might have heard of it. It's a silly kind of party game. You have two socks. They're like long, like knee-high socks, like stripy coloured, funny things. There's like, it comes with like 20 objects in each. They're identical. And then you're on two teams. You spin a thing, and it selects an item. And the first person to get that out of their sock wins that round. It's a fun, silly game, but we lost one of the little cubes for that game. So I'm making some extra cubes so we can continue to play the game with all the parts that it's supposed to have. One of the nice little quirks of having a 3D printer is making spares for things that otherwise they might charge you if you want just a single white cube, and then you have to pay shipping and all this malarkey. So yes, and then I mentioned yesterday about packing kits. So Electropie kits need packaging because they just come, or like I've done the whole thing myself. So, well, the design was, I had assistance with a freelance. But in terms of like getting the manufacturing, putting all the kits together, doing that all myself. Normally I'd have help, I mean I've had help from like LDO on VLMP kits. This one I'm doing all me. So yes, bagging like 100 kits of these connectors, fuse, screws, nuts. That took a little while yesterday. So I'm going to continue doing that pretty much today. Although I can't make any more of these because I've run out of screws. So hopefully I'll get a new delivery of screws next week. And then I continue doing these. What else have I done? Yeah, of course we're continuing the design and prototyping on the VLMP2 thing, the next VLMP3, I guess I should say. But I don't think there's any extra news for today. These are starting to kick out some serious heat already. 60-degree chamber. Very nice. Making me wish I made more at my job to buy things from you. It doesn't matter. I think my biggest downside is on working on my own as a kind of a technical person is that I'm not super great at marketing. Marketing is really difficult to do well. So maybe that's part of like just having these like casual chats just to inform you. Like I've always seen marketing as a bit of like a, you know, like a used car salesman thing where it's like trying to convince people to buy things that they actually don't want. Whereas marketing can just be making sure people know about the things that I have available, and I don't think I'm very good at that. So yes, telling you about things without like you need to buy this, you need to buy this, it's the best thing, it will change your life. No, probably won't, but I'm having fun making things, and hopefully you can have fun using them. So yes, I think that's probably going to be it for today. I'll bring you some more news probably next week. It's Friday today, isn't it? Yes. I don't know why I'm looking at my watch, because it doesn't say the day, but for some reason it helps me remember what the day is. just that little update for this morning. There's so many things I could talk about just looking around. I'm working on like many different projects at the same time. Like this, like I started doing printed parts for edamame. Did you know that? Probably not, but I do. I also have their kits, so you can get like the full thing. I don't do assembly at the moment. There you go. Also, I did some cauliflower necklaces. They're so cool. I don't know where they are at the moment. Here's one of the prototypes. It's just... I don't know really why I wanted it. It was, again, just like an idea I had. How can we use the cauliflower design for other things? And yeah, I made a... I don't need so much of this, but... Yeah, it just... it's printed... So it's 3D printed, of course. That was like fundamental to having it. And when thinking of materials, I was like, what's the most bougie thing we could do? So it's 3D printed out of titanium. It does unfortunately have kind of a rough side. This is just part of the process. When you use this process, you probably can't see because it is quite small. But there's like a really perfectly smooth side and a slightly rougher side. So obviously you wear it with the smooth side facing outwards. But yeah, I really like how it's turned out. It's just a cauliflower on a necklace. I'll have some on the shop soon. I'm probably not going to be doing many of them because it's pretty niche, let's be honest. But it was fun to kind of work out, get all the chains, try and work out what sizing is good and how to make it sit like flat and straight and all this kind of stuff. This, I don't know. I haven't worked out pricing yet. The Bay Area, Makerspace, laser cutters, 3D printers, and this struggle. Yeah, I mean, part of me, because I'm not going to make many of them, wants to sell them for quite a high price, but like I also just want it to be reasonable. Like I try and price my stuff as reasonably as possible, but the more reasonable you make it, the more difficult sometimes it can be to have better distribution, because if you want partners to distribute with, then they need a cut of the sale as well. And if there's not much margin in it, then they probably won't bother, or they won't be as interested, or it's just not worth it for them. So it's a difficult balance of trying to find pricing that I think is as low as I can make it, whilst also making it viable. So we shall see. There's probably only going to be 5 or 10 of them available to begin with, and then we'll see how we go after that. But it's a fun little project to do, and I'll of course keep one for myself. And I'll probably be wearing it when I go to events and things. Anyway, I've said goodbye once, and that was a few minutes ago, so I'll say goodbye again, and I'll see you probably on Monday for our coffee morning chat. And I'm sure there'll be lots to talk about, even though only 24 hours of work will have passed. Thanks for joining us this morning, and I'll see you next week.